Welcome to Classic Motion Stories, where we explore some of the greatest films of all time. Today, we're diving into Rear Window, a masterpiece released in 1954, directed by the master of suspense, Alfred Hitchcock. This cinematic gem stars James Stewart, Grace Kelly, Wendell Corey, and Raymond Burr, and is widely regarded as one of the most iconic films ever made. Without further ado, let's break down the plot of Rear Window. The story begins with Jeffries, a photojournalist who's stuck in his apartment after an accident left him with a broken leg. Confined to a wheelchair and bored out of his mind, Jeff's only entertainment is watching his neighbors through the rear window of his apartment, which overlooks a shared courtyard. Over time, he becomes familiar with their daily routines and even assigns them nicknames. He watches Miss Torso, a talented dancer practicing her routines. There's also a pianist, whose music fills the courtyard, and an elderly couple with a small dog. Across the way are newlyweds enjoying their honeymoon phase, and then there's Lars Thorwald, a jewelry salesman, who spends his days caring for his sick wife, bedridden in their apartment. Because it's the middle of summer, all the windows in the complex stay open, offering Jeff an even clearer view of his neighbors' lives. Jeff's routine is interrupted by visits from Stella, his no-nonsense insurance nurse, and Lisa Fremont, his glamorous girlfriend. Lisa is a socialite whose fast-paced lifestyle contrasts sharply with Jeff's adventurous career as a photographer. One night, Jeff hears a woman scream, followed by the sound of glass breaking. Unsure of what happened, he searches for the source but soon falls asleep. A storm wakes him later that night, and through the rain, he notices Thorwald leaving his apartment with a large suitcase. Thorwald makes multiple trips with the suitcase, back and forth, raising Jeff's suspicions. The next morning, Jeff notices something strange. Mrs. Thorwald is no longer in bed, and as he continues watching, he spots Thorwald handling a saw and large knives. Thorwald later hires someone to remove the suitcase, now tied with thick rope. Jeff becomes convinced that Thorwald has murdered his wife. He shares his suspicions with Lisa and Stella, but they dismiss his theories as a product of boredom. Determined to prove Thorwald's guilt, Jeff contacts his friend Tom Doyle, a detective with the NYPD. After investigating, Tom assures Jeff that everything is normal. Thorwald took his wife to a train station, and the suitcase was received by Mrs. Thorwald upstate. But Jeff isn't convinced. Things escalate when the elderly couple's dog is found dead, strangled in the courtyard. All the neighbors rush to the windows to investigate, except for Thorwald, who remains seated in the dark, smoking a cigar. This eerie behavior convinces Jeff that Thorwald is hiding something. Lisa and Stella finally believe Jeff's theory and decide to take action. Lisa leaves a note for Thorwald, asking him what he did with his wife. They watch closely from Jeff's apartment, hoping to catch a reaction. Jeff also believes Thorwald buried something in the flower bed where the dog had been digging. To investigate further, Jeff makes a fake call to Thorwald, pretending to be someone else, and arranges to meet him at a bar. The goal? To lure Thorwald out of his apartment. With Thorwald gone, Lisa and Stella head to the courtyard to dig up the flower bed, but they find nothing. Undeterred, Lisa takes a bold step and sneaks into Thorwald's apartment to search for more clues. Just as she discovers something suspicious, Thorwald returns, realizing he's been tricked. He finds Lisa inside his apartment and things take a dangerous turn. Jeff, watching the events unfold from across the courtyard, calls the police to intervene. But Thorwald now knows someone has been watching him all along, setting the stage for a tense and thrilling confrontation. In the climactic scene of Rear Window,
Please.
Thorwald accuses Lisa of breaking into his apartment, and Jeff can only watch helplessly as Lisa is arrested. However, from a distance, Lisa manages to signal Jeff by subtly showing Mrs. Thorwald's wedding ring, revealing a key piece of evidence. Thorwald notices Lisa giving signals and follows her gaze, finally realizing that Jeff has been spying on him from across the courtyard. With Lisa in police custody, Stella heads to the police station to help free her, leaving Jeff alone in his apartment. Jeff makes a desperate phone call to his detective friend Tom Doyle, leaving an urgent message about what has just transpired. Moments later, Jeff's phone rings, and assuming it's Doyle returning his call, Jeff immediately starts talking. But there is no response. Jeff quickly realizes it's Thorwald on the other end, confirming his worst fear. Thorwald is now coming for him. As Thorwald approaches, Jeff prepares himself with his camera's flashbulb, the only weapon he has. When Thorwald bursts into the apartment, Jeff uses the flash repeatedly, temporarily blinding Thorwald each time. But despite the distraction, Thorwald manages to grab Jeff and drags him towards the window. Thorwald attempts to throw Jeff out the window, and Jeff dangles precariously, shouting for help. Just in time, the police arrive and pull Thorwald off Jeff, but Jeff loses his grip and falls out of the window. Fortunately, officers below catch him, breaking his fall. In the aftermath, Thorwald confesses to everything. He admits to murdering his wife and dumping her body in the East River to cover his tracks. A few days later, Jeff is shown resting in his wheelchair, but now both of his legs are in casts. Life in the courtyard has returned to normal, with subtle changes. Miss Lonelyhearts is seen chatting with the pianist, suggesting a new connection between them. Miss Torso's soldier boyfriend finally returns home, ending her lonely nights. And the elderly couple who lost their dog to Thorwald's cruelty now have a new dog to keep them company. Lisa sits beside Jeff in his apartment, dressed down in casual clothes, who is busy reading a book and flipping through a magazine. The film ends. For fans of thrillers, Rear Window is an absolute must-watch. It's often regarded as one of the greatest suspense films of all time, setting the standard for the genre. In fact, the 2007 movie Disturbia, starring Shia LaBeouf and David Morse, is directly inspired by Hitchcock's masterpiece. And that wraps up the plot of Rear Window, 1954. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on more classic movie breakdowns. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers!